Guys, Erin here, back with another moon update for you. I'm going to be talking about the full moon we have coming up here on Friday, September 29th. This peaks at 2:57 a.m. Pacific time, and this full moon is in the sign of Aries, 6 degrees Aries. So with that said, this is the peak of a growth cycle that began approximately 6 months ago when we had a new moon in the sign of Aries. Over these 6 months, we've all been experiencing an opportunity for growth that is related to this sign of Aries, and this is a time to honor that growth. This is also a time, as soon as this moon begins to wane, it's time to let go of some of this Aries energy we may have picked up on that is not serving us. And what I mean by that, just to be clear, as we're approaching this full moon, she's getting fuller, fuller, fuller. On September 29th at 2:57 a.m. Pacific time, she's in her fullest form. When just within seconds after that, she starts to get smaller. She's waning. Okay. That's when we want to let go of what's not serving us related to this sign of Aries. What I've done every single full moon for the past, since June of 2015, pull out my journal, write down the growth that I'm grateful for that's related to the sign the moon's transiting through, and write down what I want to let go of related to the sign the moon is transiting through. Okay. And I would not continue to do this if I didn't see such incredible results coming from it. Okay. So what I'm going to do in this recording is I'm going to break down the sign of Aries for you so you know what you're working with here. I'm also going to be talking about certain parts of the body that are ruled by the sign of Aries, because these parts of our body do become more sensitive when the moon transits through the sign of Aries, especially when it's a full moon in Aries. And so I will be mentioning some potential herbal remedies to help support these parts of our body during this lunar transit. I will also be talking about some gemstones that resonate well with the sign of Aries. What I like to do after I write in my journal, I take a few gemstones that resonate well with the sign the moon's transiting through, or just overall the astrological forces we're receiving, and I put them on top of my journal. I put that journal on a windowsill so that when the moon transits by, it's like the words that I just spelled out, the spells that I'm casting are making a stronger connection with those luminaries, okay? So there's that. I will also be pulling up the chart and discussing some other very prominent astrological forces we're receiving. This is a very, very powerful full moon, by the way, because we also have the North Node going through the sign of Aries. So we'll go into that. But let's start out by talking about this sign of Aries. So Aries is what we call the cardinal fire sign. Now, when I say cardinal, I'm talking about force. All the cardinal signs come with their own kind of essence of force, okay? But since this is in the element of fire, all the fire signs are very much associated with energy. This is forceful energy. In fact, Aries is ruled by Mars. Okay, sometimes Mars is referred to as the planet of war, which kind of gives Mars a bad name, but it's because Mars is aggressive. Okay, Mars is what makes us go do what we got to do. Mars actually rules our muscles and our adrenal glands. Okay, Mars represents action. Mars influences dominance and masculinity. Okay, now, with that said, this sign of Aries is it's forceful. It comes through with that Martian energy. You may have heard of martial arts. Well, that comes from Mars. It's like the art of war. These martial arts are taking the art of war and turning it into something really spectacular. Okay, so there's that. Now, also the sign of Aries, represented by the ram. Okay, the ram that will ram whatever is in its way. The sign definitely comes with ambition. Also, the sign of Aries, the motto for the sign of Aries is I am. Okay, this is literally like the warrior of the zodiac. So this is a time to be thinking about, how have you grown in these ways? What are you? What can you say? I am, you fill in the blank. Okay. Are you taking action in what you want to do in life? And a really good trick is to get a little bit familiar with your natal chart so you can see which area of your own specific life this full moon is manifesting through. Which house in your natal chart does the sign of Aries come through? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's perfectly okay. And if it's intimidating, don't worry about it. We could just take a step back and focus on the sign of Aries in and of itself. But I will say this, I am in the process of teaching basically Astrology 101. I'm teaching you guys how to read a natal chart, okay, through the Academy for Astrological Medicine. It's a very affordable program. Not only that, but if you can't afford the full payment at once, I think it's $150, but if you can't pay that all at once, that you can set yourself up on a payment program again, through the Academy for Astrological Medicine. Really good courses. As I've mentioned before, I really wish that this stuff was available to me when I started studying astrology, because we're taking it to the root of astrology. So I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to sign up for those classes. Okay, now also, this sign of Aries, the warrior of the zodiac. Be thinking about how you've grown in these ways. What are you taking action in? But also, again, keep in mind that this sign of Aries is aggressive. Okay. Now, by no means am I suggesting that just because somebody is an Aries, that they are going to be an aggressive person. They definitely can have a tendency to, but there are things that can counteract this. Let's say your sun is in Aries, but it's right next to Saturn. That really modifies this energy. But the sign of Aries in and of itself, this cardinal fire sign ruled by Mars, can be aggressive. And I can't tell you how many messages I've been receiving just from friends and clients, like, what is going on? There's so much aggression going on. A friend of mine witnessed a lady that got hit, like a hit by a man in a parking lot. And then all these other guys came in and attacked the guy who originally hit the lady. Like a lot of that kind of energy going on. I've received a message from a friend today who said, I don't even know what's going on. I'm just feeling all this aggression. She happens to be in Aries. The North Node up in the sky is going through the sign of Aries, which very well could be igniting something in your natal chart that brings in the frustration or the aggression. So if that's the case, keep this in mind. Write that down. I am letting go of this unnecessary aggression, unnecessary frustrations when this moon is, beginning to wane. Okay, so there's that. Let's go ahead and pull up the chart and show you guys what's going on with this full moon. So for those of you who are new to my recordings, what I work with is geocentric Western astrology. So with that said, what we're looking at is basically a snapshot of the tropical zodiac at the time of this full moon. Now, with geocentric, we put Earth right here in the middle of this thing. These guys right here are all the symbols for the celestial bodies. Like here's Jupiter, here's Uranus, down here is Venus, over here is Mercury, here's the sun, here's Mars. Okay, so, and we go in the wheel a little way. These are the symbols for the zodiac signs that these things are all going to be beaming through onto Earth at the time of this full moon. And I'm going to mention this as well. This particular chart is based on my location. Okay, it's going to look different. You take the time to look this up, what it looks like in your location. It's going to look different. However, let me point this out right away. Here's the moon right here, the symbol for the moon. Here's the symbol for the sign of Aries. Here we see the moon is at 6 degrees Aries and 0 minutes, which is rare. We don't normally have a full moon at 0 minutes, but okay. So for everybody on Earth, the full moon is at 6 degrees Aries. However, if you're over, say, on the East Coast or something, then the moon will probably be somewhere down here. Or if you're, say, over in the UK, the moon might be somewhere over here. The whole chart is going to move based on your location. Okay, now, and if that's, again, too much for you to process, that's perfectly okay. With astrology, it is so important to understand that we learn things in baby steps. Like take what resonates and don't stress about the stuff that you're not fully able to process yet. It will come to you when you're ready for it. That's my very strong opinion and advice as far as learning this stuff goes, because this is a very complex topic. Okay, so, but I try to simplify it as best as I can for you guys. Okay, so here's the moon at 6 degrees Aries. This is in the first decan of that Aries energy. Okay, so this is pretty pure Aries energy. Now, if we look over here, directly across from the moon is the sun at 6 degrees Libra. Okay, now anytime we have a full moon, it means the sun and the moon are at opposite sides of the zodiac. And that's in part why full moons are so powerful, because the two brightest lights are up in the sky facing each other. And it's like they are embracing this growth that we've all experienced as a collective. And that's actually something else I want to point out. It's so important to keep in mind that anything I say here, I'm trying to apply it to the entire collective, but it's really important to remember that we really do all experience this incredibly uniquely, okay? And a lot of that has to do with your own natal chart. Let's say if you've got something in your natal chart near 6 degrees Aries, let's say your Mars, when you were born, Mars up in the sky was around 6 degrees Aries. Let's say it was between 3 to maybe 9 degrees Aries or something. Then what happens is the moon up in the sky is sitting right on top of the Mars that's within you. And again, Mars is aggressive. So that could definitely, not only that Aries rules the head, we'll go into this further along here, but Aries rules the head. And so that might create hothead type of energy. Okay. But let's say somebody else who's born with Saturn at 6 degrees Aries, that's going to be a little bit more constrictive. That's going to be a little bit more, that could still create frustrations, but not as hot and rageful type of energy. So it's so important that we understand we all experience this uniquely. Okay, now back down here to the sun at 6 degrees Libra. Happy solar return to all you Libras out there. We just had the fall equinox. Okay, now it's because Libra, this is the symbol for Libra right here, is the midpoint of the zodiac. Okay, we are now technically halfway through the zodiac, the zodiacal year, when we're in the sign of Libra. Now, Libra is a lovely energy. It's so interesting. Libra is like the sign of fairness, relationships, balance, justice. Okay. It's, in fact, the motto for the sign of Libra is I balance. Now, keep in mind, we've got the moon up here in the sign of self. Aries is the sign of self. I am. Okay. So this is it. That's another reason that full moons are so intense, is because when the sun and the moon are opposing each other, we've got opposite energies going on. Of course, there's going to be they're both cardinal. So there's some similarities, but that's another reason why this energy is so intense. Okay. But going back down to the sign of Libra, if you just look at the glyph for the sign of Libra, the straight line, the horizontal line where my mouse is moving, that's to represent the horizon. And then just above that, that's to represent the sun setting. Okay. The sign of Libra actually really is very strongly associated with the sun setting. Okay. Now, with that said, sunsets are beautiful. Sunsets are usually what we go to enjoy with our partner. We go to enjoy the beauty of them. The sign of Libra, again, the sign of partnerships, has a very strong association to beauty and harmony and balance and things, people getting along. Okay, so again, if you've got, well, let's say you've got your Mercury in Libra at 6 degrees Libra or something like that. What that means is the sun at the time of this full moon is shining right on your Mercury. Mercury has so much to do with our mental function. Your mental function might be very, very strong at the time of this full moon if your Mercury's at 6 degrees Aries, but you're also probably sitting there trying to balance things out. I got to weigh this out. How am I going to make this work with some balance and fairness and justice, and maybe even with a partner? Okay, so there's that. All right. Now, I'm going to point this out right away. So this right here is the south node, and this right here is the north node. If you've been following my videos for any length of time, you know how much I love talking about the nodes. To me, they're like the most fascinating thing in astrology. They are not planets. They're points that sit on the moon's ecliptic. And I'll be talking quite a bit about these nodes over this next 4 weeks or so, because we have eclipses coming up. In fact, that really, the day after this full moon, we enter into eclipse season. Eclipses are powerful. So be looking for, I'll be putting some information out about that. You can actually find, I believe I've got a video out on YouTube. If you just scroll through over the last year or so, there should be a video that's specifically about the nodes if you want to know more about them. But what they are, this south node right here, which is also referred to as K2, or the dragon's tail, this is where energy goes out. Okay, this is like considered the drain point for celestial energy. My favorite teacher calls it the great celestial anus, because it's the point that things go out of. Okay, versus up here, the north node, you can see they're identical symbols, right? Except this one is upside down. I always thought, I've heard they look like horseshoes, but to me, I always thought they looked like headphones. And you can think of the south node is always going to look like it's an upside down pair of headphones. Okay. The north node is right side up headphones. Okay. So the north node, which is Rahu, or also the dragon's head. Okay. This is where energy comes in. Now, both of these, the north and the south node, are fairly aggressive energies in and of themselves. I mean, these guys are said to rule over the journey of our soul, as in like from lifetime to lifetime. And they are what make eclipses happen. Anytime we have an eclipse, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, the sun and the moon have to be aligned. To sum this up in the most simplest terms, the sun and the moon have to be sort of like right next to the north and south node, and their own, depending on what kind of eclipse it is. Okay, so the North Node up here, going through the sign of Aries. This is, again, the dragon's head. Aries is the aggressor, okay? So there is a lot, these nodes are going through these zodiac signs all the way until January of 2025. Now, with that said, okay, this North Node, what's going to happen here is, here's the moon at the time of this full moon. Well, over the next, say, probably around 12, 14 hours or so, the moon's going to move forward and go over the North Node. She's going to transit over that North Node, who's already aggressive and in the sign of Aries. Okay, so there's a lot of energy coming in. This is a very powerful full moon for sure. And let's drop back down here to the South Node. So again, that's the South Node that drains energy out, going to the sign of Libra, again, all the way till January of 2025. In my very strong opinion, that it's going to be a very interesting year of 2024, the elections, okay? Because Libra, the sign of justice and balance and fairness, has the drain point going through it, draining things out. So that's interesting, right? But so this Libra season and next year's Libra season are going to be interesting, because we've got the drain point in the same sign that the sun's shine as light bright through the sign of Libra, but then the drain point there is also kind of draining some things out. And then we also, during this full moon, we've got Mars. In fact, that's going to be going on for probably about a week or so, week and a half or so, that Mars and this South Node are really close together. This probably frustrates the heck out of Mars, because Mars, first of all, in the sign of Libra, Mars struggles because please don't get me wrong. If your Mars is in Libra, I love you. Like, seriously, one of my very, very best friends has his Mars in Libra. And I just love the way when he puts things into action, he's always doing it with fairness and balance, especially for a Leo rising. He's still just like, okay, well, let's make this fair. But Mars wants to be aggressive. That's his job. He's the planet of war, right? Well, if you look at the symbol for Mars, that little arrow that's coming out of him, it's like he's trying to penetrate. Mars actually has a very, very big influence on our sex drive, okay? Because he's trying to penetrate everything. He's dominant. He's aggressive. And in the sign of Libra, Libra's like, whoa, dude, chill. Like, let's be fair about this. You don't got to just go sticking things around everywhere. We got to be fair. We got to be balanced about this. So Mars already gets a little frustrated going through the sign of Libra. But then we take into consideration, it's got the South Node draining his energy out. So this is a very interesting transit for Mars. While we have some aggressive energies going on up here, we've also got some stuff that's trying to drain that out. So be thinking about that. Keep that in mind. You know, if you're feeling frustrated yourself, if you're feeling aggressive, a lot of people will have a hard time sleeping when the moon's transiting through the sign of Aries. Keep that in mind, just letting things go, letting it go, what's, not serving you, the frustrations, that sort of thing. Or if you're out and about and you're seeing other people acting aggressive and that sort of thing, just keep this in mind. Try to stay as grounded and centered as possible and allow for the aggression to drain out. Okay. Now you're probably curious about this guy. I don't normally talk about Chiron this quickly, but since Chiron's going through Aries, let's do it. So Chiron is considered the wounded healer. Now, Chiron, there's not a lot of real strong, let's say, research on Chiron, because Chiron was only discovered in 1977, but he's considered the wounded healer. Okay. And I really do feel confident that Chiron has a lot to do with healing the wounds. Okay. Because when somebody is born with Chiron, say right on their ascendant or right next to their sun, or Chiron's just really strong in their chart, these people had to go through something that was really tough, generally when they were like in their childhood, okay, had to go through something that was really tough and created some very severe wounds. Well, they heal those wounds. They are people who heal those wounds and then go on to become healers themselves, the wounded healer. I noticed that. I really mean it. There's a few people I've given readings to where I'm like, wow, yeah, that Chiron definitely, I don't know how they figured it out, but that's definitely Chiron's influence. Okay, now with that said, Chiron's going through the sign of Aries. This is all the way till either I think it's 2026, maybe 2025. So we got Chiron and Aries for another couple of years at least. But Aries is the sign of self, the warrior of the zodiac. I've mentioned this so many times. This is a really good time to be working on healing our own wounds, ourself. Okay. And I'm not by any means suggesting that you shouldn't be asking for guidance or help on your healing journey. However, Chiron going through Aries can really help to trigger it. Like, let's do this. I got wounds to heal. And especially as this moon is transiting over Chiron again. So it's just kind of like this energy is going on kind of through September 30th, maybe even kind of lingering through the 31st. Is that right? Through the 31st. Sorry, through October 1st. I couldn't remember if there was 31 days in September or not. Okay, so there's that. Now, let's focus on Mercury next, because Mercury's doing some neat things. Mercury has a huge influence on our mental function, okay, and also our communication skills. Mercury is considered the messenger of the gods, okay? Now, Mercury is a very important character, a very, very busy character, and he's got to stay organized, okay? He's got to stay organized because he's got to keep our mental function organized. He's got to, basically, Mercury is how we receive information into our mind. Mercury's got to put a label on a file and put it away somewhere into our consciousness and then pull it back out when we want to communicate it. Okay, so Mercury's going through the sign of Virgo, not in retrograde, so this is great, okay? Mercury rules Virgo. With that said, Mercury's basically in his own home. He's in his own castle. He's like, I know where everything is. I get to stay extra organized. People who are born with Mercury and Virgo, generally speaking, are going to have very clear minds, are going to be good at keeping things organized in their mind and their environment and that sort of thing. And what I love is that Mercury's making a really strong trine up here to Uranus, okay? I'm talking about this blue line that goes from here to here. Now, the part of the reason I love this so much is because, all right, Uranus influences spasmodic, electrical energy, things that are abrupt, things that are unexpected, and going through the sign of Taurus, okay? Taurus, let's talk about this for a minute. This is considered a debilitated placement. And the reason for that is because Uranus wants to be electrical and spasmodic, and Taurus is the fixed earth sign, the most stable sign of the zodiac, represented by the bull, okay? Well, with that said, it's like Uranus doesn't get to be as zappy and electrical as he wants to, but on the same token, Taurus can kind of handle it, you know, and we are all feeling this. We are all, again, Taurus is like the earth of the earth signs, and we've got spasmodic Uranus going through it. We're going through some very abrupt changes. That's just in part to why we are going through some very, very powerful transformations right now as a collective, and of course, as individuals. But this sign of Taurus can handle it. It's an earth sign. And with that said, Virgo is also an earth sign. So we've got, and not only that, but Mercury and Uranus both can have a pretty big influence on, Mercury has a huge influence on our nervous system. Uranus can too. Uranus can create like spazzy sort of nervous stuff, okay? But since we've got them going through earth signs are like, we got this. We can slow this down. We can, especially with something, a trine, this approximately 120-degree angle. And by the way, this aspect's going to be going on, I believe it's all the way till, I think like October 6th or something like that. So it's really just, you know, a nice thing. Keep that in mind. That'll help with the aggressions and that sort of thing. Again, everything I say depends on your own natal chart. Everybody experiences this stuff uniquely. But as a collective, this can be a nice one for kind of keeping the nerves in check and keeping the mental function organized and that sort of thing. Okay, so next we'll talk about Venus right here going through the sign of Leo. So Venus has been going through Leo for months now. I can't remember exactly when she entered, because she did this long retrograde through Leo, and now she's moving forward again. Venus is the influencer of love and beauty. In fact, she rules the sign of Libra. As I mentioned, Libra has a lot to do with beauty and charm and that sort of thing. Well, a lot of that comes from Venus being Libra's ruler. Venus loves harmony. Venus loves for everybody to get along. It's like when everybody's just relaxed and getting along and there's harmony in the environment, that's a very Venetian moment. Okay. In the sign of Leo, I love Venus in Leo because Leo is grand. Leo is the leader of the zodiac. Leo is like the sign of royalty. So in Leo, Venus, it's like she gets to be extravagant. She's absolutely lovely in the sign of Leo, in my very strong opinion. Okay, so there's that. We're all experiencing that again. So if you've got anything in your natal chart and you're 22 degrees Leo, keep in mind that Venus is there. There might be something going on with a female in your life. Venus represents females in our life, or except for mother, by the way. The moon is more associated with mother, but Venus can have a big influence on things that are just aesthetically pleasing. So if you've got something strong in your chart, say Mercury or Mars or Venus or whatever it is, if you're having a Venus return right now, that definitely could have to do with something that has to do with beauty, even art, like anything that's artistic, or a female in your life, say a sister or a female best friend, something like that might be going on, might be picking up. Okay, so let's see. Next, we will talk about Jupiter up here. So Jupiter is a great expander, okay? Jupiter makes things a bigger deal. Jupiter can be aggressive, okay? Jupiter is considered the great benefic who brings wisdom and luck and abundance, okay? But also, and joy and faith, but also can be aggressive. Like, we can't forget, in Norse mythology, Jupiter is very strongly associated with Thor, okay? Laying down the hammer. But also, Jupiter is also associated with Zeus. So, and Jupiter is like this, it's a warm energy, but also kind of, it can be dry energy. It kind of depends on what sign he's going through. But overall, Jupiter going through the sign of Taurus, these things that I talked about with the sign of Taurus, he's kind of making them a bigger deal. Okay, so for an example, Jupiter is at 14 degrees Taurus at the time of this full moon. If you've got something in your natal chart near 14 degrees Taurus, let's say you've got your Venus at 14 degrees Taurus, then Jupiter's sitting right on top of the Venus that's within you and making that Venetian energy a bigger deal. And if he's harshly aspected, if he's making a connection to another celestial body, let's say Mars or something, he could get aggressive. It could definitely get aggressive, but overall, he can bring in the wisdom. We can always learn from experiences. Any kind of experience you can learn the lesson from, but Jupiter can bring the wisdom with like a bigger deal, okay? And can also definitely can bring some luck into our lives. If your sun is near 14 degrees Taurus, you could be experiencing some luck in your life, but also some things that are dramatic at the same time or aggressive at the same time, that sort of thing. Okay, hope it made sense of that. And also, I'm going to mention this. As this next, I'd say like 8 months unfolds, there's going to be this connection between Uranus and Jupiter. Taurus also, by the way, has a lot to do with money. Okay, money, material possessions, our value system. And here's spasmatic Uranus, and here's Jupiter, the one who makes things a bigger deal. These guys they're going to get pretty darn close together over these next 8 months or so. And we're already kind of feeling them together. So Jupiter is kind of expanding that already sort of wild energy coming from Uranus. And again, this can be applied to money, material possessions, value systems, and also can also have to do with food. Sign of Taurus it rules like basically the mouth, okay? It has a lot to do with enjoying like the value of good food, okay? So there could be maybe some changes going on with the way that you value your food or something like that. All right, there's that. Enough rambling on that one. Let's talk about Neptune going through Pisces briefly here. So Neptune going through Pisces, I believe all the way until the end of 2025. Okay, so Neptune rules Pisces. Neptune's in his own home. Okay, Neptune is basically the influencer of psychic capabilities, breaking down the psychic boundaries. Neptune has a huge influence on things that are sort of mystical or just unearthly, very spiritual energy. And with that said, this sign of Pisces, because Neptune is one of Pisces rulers, Pisces in and of itself is basically the mystic of the zodiac. So we are all experiencing this sort of, this tendency for our psychic capabilities to be enhanced, for our psychic boundaries to be broken down, but on very, very spiritual transit. But on the flip side of that, this is so unearthly that it's like a lot of people I hate to say it, and I've said it before, it can definitely create delusions. It makes people kind of vulnerable to magic tricks. Okay. Some things that, you know, you're seeing something online or on the news or whatever, and it seems so real, but we're kind of in this little bit of a dreamland. And again, so much of this depends on your own natal chart. This can also have a lot to do with altered states of consciousness. I happen to know a Pisces who's a 26-degree Pisces, and he was, because basically what Neptune did is it went over his sun and then it retrograded back and it's going to move forward again. And we're talking about somebody who never even really experimented with any sort of, you know, drugs or anything like that before, but all of a sudden just started diving into like super heavy doses of THC and just all of a sudden wants to go. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, dude, you're you're feeling Neptune hardcore. So that's what Neptune does, especially going through the sign of Pisces. So if you've got something near 25 degrees Pisces in your natal chart, be mindful of that. If you've got, you know, some sort of, if you deal with addictions, that sort of thing, Neptune going through Pisces, sitting right on top of something in your chart can make you fall back into some sort of an addictive pattern or something like that. And can also can make it difficult to concentrate, can definitely make it difficult to concentrate, because Neptune is dreamy, especially going through Pisces. But you also, especially if you've been doing the work, if you've been working on yourself, trying to be the best version of yourself, then this can definitely enhance your spiritual experience here, your spiritual practices, heighten your intuition like nothing else. Okay. All right. There's that. Now we got Saturn way on the other side of Pisces over here. Like here's Neptune is going towards the end of Pisces. Well, Saturn entered into Pisces in March, moved, I believe it was all the way up to 8 degrees Pisces, and now is retrograding back. He's at 1 degree Pisces during this full moon. In fact, I believe he's going all the way back to 0 degrees Pisces, and then he's got to move forward again. So let's see, Saturn. Saturn brings the restrictions. Saturn brings the discipline, the responsibilities. Saturn is basically this energy of take care of your business, okay? Or I'm going to force you to. That's what Saturn does. And in part, I enjoy this Saturn going through Pisces because I kind of feel like he's bringing the harsh reality to that sign of Pisces. He's like, okay, don't fall for charlatans, okay? Don't fall for the magical tricks that are, you know, being put in your face, that sort of thing. So it could be a really good thing. It can also, Saturn has a huge influence. I should just say Saturn rules the structure of crystals or gemstones forming. Saturn rules minerals, okay? So the structure, all crystals are going to form in a different way. And that's Saturn's influence that forms the crystals. And crystals, clearly, there's a strong connection, you know, traditional, like a psychic using the clear crystal ball, that sort of thing. That's very Piscean, okay? So Pisces is also attached to like the spiritual side of working with gemstones. And so I do think Saturn going through Pisces can be a really good time. This is all the way until March of 2026. Saturn is going through Pisces. It could be a lovely time, especially if you got some strong Piscean energy in your natal chart, to be learning about the structure of crystals and how they work and how they're all so unique, you know, even just their metaphysical benefits. Learning about those sorts of things can be this is a wonderful time for that. Okay, so there's that. But also if you got anything near, say, between 0 and 3 degrees Pisces, you might be feeling a little restricted right now. You might be feeling a little like Saturn's putting some sort of blockage in front of you. He's trying to teach you a lesson of sorts. Okay, so let's talk about Pluto here. Pluto going through Capricorn. Pluto is now back at 27 degrees Capricorn. So Pluto and the influencer of powerful transformation, okay? Pluto influences things like the full degeneration or decomposition of something, but then the rebirth, the growth, the bigger growth that comes in. It's a death and rebirth process that Pluto influences. And Pluto's been going through Capricorn since 2008. Okay. And in fact, if you've been watching my videos, I really apologize if it gets repetitive for you, but I also got to keep in mind that some people maybe never heard this stuff before. So Pluto going through the sign of Capricorn since 2008. Capricorn is the sign that rules over the structure of our civilization. Okay. So Capricorn rules over things like I mean, honestly, even government. Capricorn rules over even the cities, the buildings in the cities. Capricorn also has a very strong influence on things like traditions. Okay. Capricorn season falls when a lot of us celebrate things like the holidays, Christmas, and that sort of thing. Okay. Capricorn has a lot to do with traditions and just the structure of them. Well, Pluto has created some pretty serious destruction to the structure of our civilization, especially going back into 2020. We had so many different things floating around that side of Capricorn. That was wild, man. But Pluto is almost done. He's almost done. He's going to be completely out of this sign of Capricorn in December of 2024. Currently, he's in retrograde. When Pluto is in retrograde, he's aggressive. Okay, in fact, Pluto's in retrograde. Saturn's also in retrograde. Mentioned that. Neptune's in retrograde. Uranus is in retrograde. Jupiter's in retrograde. When things are in retrograde, especially Pluto and especially Uranus, they tend to have this more like extreme energy that comes from them. So Pluto is working pretty powerfully right now. And if he's hitting something in your chart, let's say you've got something like your moon at 28 degrees Capricorn or something like that, you're probably going through a transformational process that involves your emotions, okay? Or something that involves your mother or something like that. Let's say you've got your Mercury at 26 degrees Capricorn, probably incredible, like extreme abilities to focus, but with so much intensity. And Pluto's probably trying to break down the function of your psyche to create a more powerful rebirth. Okay. That could be a very, very powerful transit. And really, Pluto in these late degrees of Capricorn is a powerful transit for all of us. And what he's going to do is he's going to retrograde back. I can't remember. I think it's in December. He's in retrograde till, but then he's going to move forward. He's going to peek into this sign of Aquarius and he's going to go, hey, for the second time, by the way, hey, I'm here. I'm just about ready to move in, Aquarius, and I'm going to create some transformational processes. We'll just leave it at that for you, Aquarius, but I'm not quite there yet. I have to retrograde back one more time. And then in December of 2024, Pluto will finally move forward through that sign of Aquarius. And I do feel like there's going to be some major technological, I don't even know if I want to call them advances, some pretty wild stuff. The sign of Aquarius is very strongly associated with technology, and Pluto coming through like destruction, but then like more powerful stuff. It's going to get wild. But we're still finishing up with Pluto creating this like powerful transformation in the structure of our civilization. And again, traditions. I know a lot of people, it's like they're not celebrating the holidays like they used to, and which I don't have a problem with that. It just doesn't suit what you want to be doing during holidays, that sort of thing. But Pluto going through Capricorn can have a lot to do with that. Okay, did I cover everything I wanted to here? I think so. So let's talk about body parts. So Aries rules the top of the head, okay? In fact, Aries people can tend to have like a hot head, especially Mars. If you got your sun and your Mars in Aries, woof, like real hot head energy. So, and in fact, it even rules the brain. So with that said, this part of our body becomes more sensitive during this lunar transit. Again, it's not going to be as prominent for some people as it is for other people. Again, if in your natal chart, you have, again, your Mars in Aries or even your Mercury in Aries, then yeah, the top of your head might feel those are the ones that might have a hard time sleeping when there's a full moon in the sign that rules the brain, rules the top of the head. So some things that we can work with that, obviously meditation is really wonderful. But there's also some herbs. Oh boy, I'm just going to, oh gosh, let me look at my notes really quick. Yeah. And wood betony. Wood betony is really good for like kind of calming the nerves in the brain. Another thing is, okay, the sign of Aries has a lot to do. Well, it really does have some rulership over the adrenals. Okay. The adrenal glands, let's go do what we got to do, that sort of thing. And so even our adrenals might be extra active during this transit. So a really good one for the adrenals, it can kind of like revive or renew the adrenals, is something called borage, which borage can also bring courage. Okay. If you're somebody who really, you want more courage, you could honestly even just wear like a medicine bag, you know, like the natives did with borage in it to increase your courage. Okay. But again, like to try to, if your adrenals are all screwed up, let's say you've been drinking coffee, 4 cups of coffee every day for the last 4 years, you might want to consider something like borage. By the way, I'm not a doctor. I do not claim to be a doctor, but I do have some experience in this stuff. I'm not offering any kind of medical advice. Basically, what I'm sharing with you guys is stuff that I have learned from my teachers. A lot of this information comes from Judith Hill, who's I'm sorry, she's, in my very, very strong opinion, the most experienced and phenomenal medical astrologer that is alive on earth today, unless there's somebody hiding in a pyramid somewhere that we don't know about. But Judith Hill is just absolutely incredible. And a lot of this information I get from her. I also get a lot of stuff from the Mind Body Institute. I mean, all sorts of just programs that I've been learning stuff from over the years. About 7 years now, I've been studying this stuff. But I also want to share stuff with you that has worked for me. It's important to keep in mind, though, that we are all very unique. We are all different. But these are just things that, if you feel so called, you might want to try. Okay. But also you have to be very mindful and very careful because, you know, some people might be allergic to some things. And so just be smart about what you're doing. But again, I'm not a doctor and I'm not offering medical advice. Okay. The other one I wanted to mention was yarrow. Okay. Yarrow is great for a lot of things, really. Yarrow is a really, really good herb, but this sign of Aries can have a lot to do with accidents, because the sign of Aries will do things that are aggressive. They'll do silly things and end up with an accident, especially when Aries people are young. A lot of times they end up like hurting their head and falling down and hurting their head in some way. A lot of Aries people will kind of have like a bigger head. Not all of them, certainly not all of them, but this sign of Aries is kind of prone to accidents. Okay. Now yarrow is said to be a really good protector. That's another one. I've actually put yarrow in a little bag and put it underneath my pillow before I go to sleep at night. To just kind of, it gives this energy of protection specifically from accidents. Again, being ruled by Mars. Mars is the warrior, and you know, this Aries energy can have a tendency for that. Okay, so let's see. I covered that. Now I also wanted to mention gemstones. Let's start with, well, Aries zodiacal birthstone is diamonds. Okay, now this is an interesting one. I actually put grandma's diamonds on for this. I generally don't wear diamonds, but I inherited it from my grandmother, and she was an Aries. But the diamonds, it's interesting that they're Aries birthstone because diamonds actually belong to Venus. And the connection that I see there is that diamonds are said to keep you young. Okay, they're said to it's like a youthful energy that we receive from diamonds, and I think that's probably has a big part in why diamonds, you know, going back into ancient times, why they are said to be so precious. But this sign of Aries is really the sign of youth. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It's like the sign of infancy. And so I think that's the connection there. Okay, but certainly not everybody has diamonds, and that's perfectly okay. We don't need to be wearing diamonds. In fact, diamonds may not be the best stone for everybody. But regardless, some other gemstones to mention here. I mean, really, let's get into this. Okay, so Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars's stone, and this is all based on the Upaye system, okay? Mars's stone is red coral, which I put my red coral necklace on today, which makes total sense, okay? This is like red coral will increase that Martian energy, increase that warrior type of energy. If you're somebody who's already dealing with frustrations of all sorts and that sort of thing, you might not want to wear red coral, okay? Because it could increase that. But if you're somebody who's just really down, not much energy, feeling pretty low, you know, as long as you're not dealing with major frustrations, the red coral can help amp that up. Okay, now the next one I was going to mention here is blue kyanite. In fact, black kyanite and blue kyanite really do resonate well with the sign of Aries. But the reason I chose blue kyanite to talk about here is because blue kind of belongs to Saturn. Okay, Saturn is cold and slow. Mars, which rules Aries, is hot, fast, aggressive. Okay, so when we want to remedy that Aries energy, we can bring in sort of like this Saturnian slow down type of energy. And not only that, but blue kyanite is a very protective stone. In fact, I've even heard that you don't necessarily have to cleanse kyanite. Okay. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like basically a lot of stones. It's really important that you cleanse them. You can soak them in salt water. You can put them out under the full moon. I mean, I don't put my stones out on just any old full moon. It just depends on what's really going on. But you can also put them straight into, I'm not talking about regular old table salt. I'm talking about real sea salt. Okay. Real, what came from the actual ocean and wasn't processed somewhere. Well, I suppose most salt has been processed to a certain degree, but I'm not talking about like the kind of salt that you just go buy in a regular grocery store that's heavily processed. Okay. We want regular sea salt. That's what I usually use to clean my stones. Clear crystal quartz really seems to need to be cleansed a lot, but kyanite is so powerful and so strong that generally speaking, this is a stone that does not have to be cleansed, and it's very, very protective. So I am definitely going to be using blue kyanite for this full moon. I'll probably use a combination of my red coral and blue kyanite, but another really light blue stone. This isn't necessarily directly related to the sign of Aries, but this is something called angelite, which is very similar color here, the same kind of feeling. If you think about it, if somebody's put into a room that is painted this color, it's on an energetic level, they're going to be brought to this sort of like calmness sort of energy. Okay. And then you could also use like earth tones, garnet or not garnet, jasper or agate, like earth tones that are a little more grounding, that sort of thing. But as usual, what I'll do is I'll leave a full extensive list of Aries stones in the description section below. Okay, did I cover everything? I think I covered everything. I think I'm going to leave that there. If you would like to schedule an astrology reading, please visit erinwageastrology.com. You can schedule straight through my website. I do hope to hear from some of you. And until next time, namaste to all of you.